repentance, redemption, and reconciliation. That's what I want to talk to you about tonight. I got a beautiful, beautiful love story for you. It's a story of repentance, a story of redemption, and a story of reconciliation. And with all of that, it points to one thing and only one thing. What is that, you ask? I'm glad you asked. Stick around and I'll tell you. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 2.0. I am so happy you can join us for another episode. Listen, if you are new here and you're just checking us out, you don't know what we're all about, let me extend the invitation out to you right now to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that every time we drop an episode, you, my friend, will be notified so you can come and check out our episode here. And if you're a returning member of the 2.0 family, we thank you so much for your love and support, and we appreciate it. Again, like I said, tonight we have a wonderful love story for you. It's a story that touches my heart. It's very near and dear to me. Oh my God, I'm telling you, it's an amazing story. It's a story of repentance, a story of redemption, and a story of reconciliation. And like I said, it points to one thing and only one thing. What is that? It points to the power of God. That's right. When God is in the middle, when God is at the center, there is nothing that is impossible. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to a wonderful couple. If you saw the last episode that on the podcast here, we talked about, would you take your ex back? Would you remarry your ex? And some of you guys had some different answers. I mean, a lot of people were upset. I mean, some people were cordial. There were mixed emotions with that question. So, but tonight, I'm happy to bring you this wonderful story. You're going to get to meet the wonderful couple, Lindsay and Rico, and they're going to tell you a little bit about their story. So listen. All right. So like I said, without further ado, let's go to that interview right now. So I came across your video, Lindsay, because I don't know if Rico has a profile, but I think you're probably more active. So I saw your video and I thought about that. I'm like, wow, this is interesting, because I've interviewed a lot of people who are divorced, especially a lot of men who are divorced. But I've always wanted to speak to someone who either has begun the reconciliation process or who have gone through it, just to get their insight as to that process and how that actually started. And when I saw your video, I was like, oh man, that's awesome. So I took a chance and sent you a message, and lo and behold, you actually responded. So I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I try to respond to as many messages as I can. So, and we love doing podcasts. So.
I appreciate that. So let's take it back from the start, right? So based on the clip that I saw, you said, Rico wrote you a hand note back when he was in 7th grade, asking you to be his girlfriend.
He did. He did. In the 7th grade, he wrote me a note and slipped it in my locker and asked me to be his girlfriend.
It started before then, though. So,
the
backstory on how we met each other. Yeah. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, right? And so I moved to Kentucky when I was about 13 years old. So in the 7th grade, and we were having like a dance. It was like a middle school dance, and I got deemed Snowball Prince, and she was deemed Snowball Princess.
Oh.
And so in the court or whatever you want to call it, everybody, you had to dance, right?
Yeah.
We ended up, dancing, and she came and she was crying and all distraught. And I'm like, what's going on? And apparently the guy that she was dating at the time broke up with her.
Oh, man.
And so I was like, come on over here with a real man. I got you. So
in the 7th grade, though.
So the next day, that's when I wrote the letter. I was like, hey, you want to be my girl? So that's how the story began.
Wow, in the 7th grade, you're already telling her, come here and be with a real man.
Yeah.
Well, at least what I thought, that's what I thought.
No, I love it. But that's beautiful. So, so you guys have been together ever since then?
On and off. Yeah. On and off. Yeah.
Gotcha. But altogether, I think you said in the video, it's been 21 years.
21 years.
Okay. Okay. And how long were you guys married?
We were married for 7 years. Yeah.
For 7 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys are officially divorced for how long now?
We were divorced about a year officially before we started dating again.
Okay. All right. So now tell me a little bit about the relationship, the 7 years of marriage, and what led up to the separation or the divorce.
There was a lot. I mean, if you think we've been together on and off since we were in the 7th grade, we grew up together and we went through different phases of life together. You know, we were high school parents. We went to college. You know, we were trying to raise our son. We got married. We had a lot of toxic traits and habits, both of us, that we were in like this cycle, you know, like, I would like withdraw and he would pursue. And it's like this thing, it was very toxic. We had a lot of toxic traits and things like that. It was never us like fighting about money or fighting about kids or anything like that. Like it was like your typical marriage problems. Like it wasn't that. Yeah. We had just created toxicity within our marriage. You know, we stopped dating each other. We got wrapped up in life and kids. And we, at one point in our marriage, we viewed each other as enemies instead of partners. Wow. And when you do that, it creates this tension in the home where it's almost like you become roommates, you know?
Right.
And a lot of that starts from offense, right? You know, if you hear the word offense, you can think a fence. You build a fence. Every time you get offended, it's like another plank, another board, or another brick just being piled on top of each other. And that's 21, you know, at the time, not 21, but that's years of offense between us that, you know, the things that may have been swept under the rug begin to come to surface when you're married to somebody, because that's the closest person to you. Right. You know what I mean? Aside from your kids. Yeah. And we just never dealt with that, you know, like we should have. So.
Gotcha. And then the fact that you guys have been together ever since you were in 7th grade, right? So it's like you're still growing and discovering each other, or discovering yourself personally. Yeah. And it's almost like you have to adapt to, I guess, to the new discoveries of each person's personalities and so on and so forth.
Right. Exactly.
We had to grow up fast. I mean, we had our oldest at 16. You know,
wow.
Was born at 17, so we had to grow up pretty fast, a lot faster than other kids our age.
Right. I was going to touch on that because, you know, Lindsay said you guys were high school parents. So I'm guessing, you know, you gave birth while you were in high school. So how difficult was that for you guys?
It was really hard. We had no clue what we were doing.
Right.
For me personally, when I found out I was pregnant, my mother kicked me out. Ooh. And so I was 16 going to school. At this point, I'm working full time, living on my own, trying to navigate how in the heck I'm going to do this. You know, it was difficult. You know, our senior year, he played football. I cheered. Our son Tristan would literally be in a car seat on the sidelines with the coach. You know, we made it work. Right. It was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah. Gotcha. For me, you know, I had a couple scholarships, you know, coming out of high school, and the closest was Western Kentucky, which is my alma mater, which is in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is about from where we live now, where we grew up in high school, was about 2.5 hours. And so we had to have a parenting schedule, you know what I mean? So I wasn't as involved as I would like to be, but I was still there, if that makes sense, you know, and it did make it a lot harder on her at the time. So.
Gotcha. So now, when did you guys eventually get married? Is you know, having a baby in high school was one of the factors that you got married early, or?
No. So we, when we went to college, he went to Western, I went to Eastern. So again, they're about 2.5 hours from each other. We didn't really date throughout college. He did his thing, I did my thing. I mean, we would always, like when he would come in town, like there was always that connection, right? It never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he graduated college, he went to the military. And then, you know, I got a job. We were just trying to figure out life. And again, it was always one of those things, like, even if we weren't together, like, you couldn't keep us away from each other. Like that connection was there. You know, all it took was like one look at each other and like,
Yeah, I remember this feeling.
So yeah, and it's like all those feelings came back, and then in 2017, our son was 9 at that point. We made the decision to start dating again, and we're both out of college. We had both kind of chosen our career path and had matured a little bit, and we decided to give it a shot. And so we got married in 2017 is when we got married.
Nice. Now, I think there's a mention of, something that happened with your son, and he is no longer with us. Are you guys comfortable talking about that?
Sure.
Yeah. We lost Tristan in July of last year.
My condolences.
Thank you. He had just turned 16 in May. So it's one of those things like grief brings out a side of people that you don't normally see, and it's usually for the worst, right? Like grief brings out the bad in a lot of people, and it has a way of driving a wedge in between people. For us, it was totally different. When I think about home, it's home for me as a person. It's him. Like he is home, and so when we lost Tristan, I didn't want to be with anyone but him. For one, we were Tristan's parents. No one understood what we were going through but us.
Right.
And so we spent 4 weeks together after we lost our son. And it wasn't necessarily like, oh, we're going to date again. It was, we were just there for each other, At this point, we had literally been through everything in life, and we lost our son, the one thing that started this whole thing.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so like that 4 weeks was kind of like it kind of opened that door again to that romance by also bonding through grief as well. That nobody could understand like she said, nobody could understand what I was feeling like she could.
Right.
And so that bond, slowly started to come together. Now like she said, we didn't like automatically, let's date. It was just kind of that feeling in the back of your mind, like, man, I felt that just like you did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, like I said, you guys have been together for 7 years. You guys have spent a lot of time together. You guys were parents and raising your son together. So, of course, it makes sense that you would gravitate towards one another in the moment of need, right? In the moment of grief. So that it makes sense that you guys would be pulled together, in that time. So you're saying this is the moment that's kind of like pulling you guys back together and making you think, well, you know what, maybe we should give it another shot?
For me, it was more so, if you would have asked me, do I see us getting back together? And my answer probably would have been no, because we had so much toxic stuff. And I'm like, not that it wasn't possible. It was going to take a lot of work from both of us,
Yeah.
And, for me, like, because he was in the wreck too, him, my daughter, and my son. And I remember, like the feeling of, I almost lost him. You know what I'm saying? I almost lost him. And to think about losing him and him not knowing that I still loved him. You know what I'm saying? Like, or, it's one of those things, and grief has changed my perspective on life so much. You think like, oh, I'll tell that person tomorrow, or maybe next year, Rico and I will figure it out, or maybe 5 years from now, like we'll get it together and we'll come back together. And it's like that day, July 20th, life stopped. And it's like tomorrow's not promised.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have forever. We wake up, and every day we wake up, our clock is ticking every day. Like what are we doing? Why are we waiting? Like I know for a fact, like I didn't want to spend my life with anyone else but him.
Right.
And what was I going to wait to put in the work or wait for us to get it together when I may not be here next year? Gotcha. So why not enjoy the time that we have together now? That's how it was for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And when exactly did you guys get divorced?
We separated July of 2023.
Okay.
No, 2024. Sorry, 2024. And our divorce was finalized November of 2024.
Got it. Now you don't have to go into details as to the cause of the divorce, but I feel like you guys have been together for so long. There was several ups and downs. You guys separated so many times. You were separated during the time that you went to college, and then you came back and got married, and now you unfortunately got divorced. So, do you think you guys have done the work that is required or necessary for you to say, you know what, I'm going to give it another shot?
Have we done all of the work that we need to? No, it's a process.
Okay.
I think that it's something that we have to wake up every day and that we have to choose to do. It's not something that,
it's going to happen overnight.
It's not going to happen overnight, but we both made the decision to wake up every day and to try. And that's all we can do. And one of the biggest things that we have done this time around that we have never done is put God as the foundation of our relationship. God was always a part of it. We went to church, we prayed, but our flesh ruled our marriage. I don't want to do that, or I don't like the way that makes me feel, or and I had a really hard time of letting him be a leader. Right. The scripture says that he is supposed to be the head of the house, so I had a hard time with that. So there was a lot of things, like we knew what the scripture said. We went to church, we prayed, but we didn't practice it in our home. It was not the foundation of our house, of our marriage, of anything. Yeah. And so this time we made the decision, we've tried our flesh, we have tried, and we have failed so many times. At this point we're like, all right, God, like you gotta be the foundation of this. In order for this to work, we have to trust you. We have to do what the word says. He has to be the center of this thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In the same breath, though, the Bible says faith without works is dead. Right. Right. So in doing that, we're being intentional. That means we're praying together. We're studying scripture together. What I'm saying? We're going to individual counseling. We're going to be starting couples counseling as well. What I'm saying? So it's like we're doing the things that needs to be done, but also relying on God to mend what's been broken.
No, that's awesome. I mean, one of the things that I can appreciate is the fact that, Lindsay, you're showing that you're taking accountability, because you're saying that one of the things that you didn't do in the past is allowing him to lead, right? Because he's supposed to be the leader of the house. So that's great. And I'm sure Rico's taking accountability for his shortcomings as well. And then you guys are doing the work. You're going to therapy, counseling, and so on and so forth. And then with God at the center, I have no doubt that you guys are going to be successful. As you said, it's a long road ahead. It's going to require a lot of work. But, the key thing that you said, Lindsay, is choosing. Every day that you wake up, you're choosing to stay together. You're choosing to work on it. So I think, that's the key to a successful and a healthy relationship.
I agree. And the reality of it is whether we stayed together or whether we started a new relationship and moved on, you have to put in the work. Like that, when you first start dating someone, it's new, it's fresh. You're in this honeymoon phase. It's all fine. Like, oh, sure, leave your shoes there. It's fine. And then you get married and it's like, pick up your shoes, like things start to change. It shifts. Life happens. Yes. And so that honeymoon phase eventually wears off, and you got to start putting in extra work to rekindle that romance, to date each other again, to remember why you started in the first place. And so if I'm going to put in that work, I would rather do it with him, than to look elsewhere. People say like the grass is it's greener where you water it at, and I'm a firm believer of that.
Right. That's true. Let's take a step back to the divorce for a minute. So, how was the divorce process? Was it amicable, or was it crazy, nasty, or what was that process for you guys?
It was, according to our attorneys, one of the easiest divorces they've ever done.
Oh, really?
Actually, one of the legal assistants that worked in the law office that he used reached out to me on TikTok and was like, I knew from the second y'all's divorce was so easy that you were going to end up back together. She's like, I've never seen it. We didn't fight over nothing. Yeah. It was like clean cut. He went this way, I went that way. Right. We split in half, everything went in half, and it's like, all right, cool. We didn't fight over anything. There was nothing to fight over, Right. So it was cordial. I filed for divorce in August. It was finalized in November. It was quick. Wow. It was just one of those things. Like it was easy.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of nightmares of people that go through it for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I was thinking too, because sometimes unfortunately, when it's not amicable or it's nasty, I think that process of trying to rekindle everything would have been much more difficult
Oh
for
yeah.
us, right?
But my intentions were never to hurt him in the divorce. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to make it worse on him. Like,
wow. That's,
why would I do that?
That's very mature of you to say.
Yeah, it wasn't, my intentions weren't to hurt him.
But you gotta think about it. Like, it goes back to us knowing each other for so long. We've already done that. The immature behavior and trying to hurt each other. We did that when we were kids. So now it's like, wow, let's just go on, separate, and then go our separate ways. You know what I mean? We always been good at co-parenting, even when we weren't together. You know what I'm saying? So it was just an easy thing to do.
Gotcha. And what were the feedback from your friends and family during the divorce process?
It was mixed. Some people said that we should fight for it. Other people were like, y'all have been trying this for way too long. It's not working. Go your separate ways, So it was mixed, but at the same time, even through the divorce, like, it was never like, he was never not a part of my family. He was still invited to family functions, like, it was still like, that didn't shift.
Right.
So it wasn't, there was no animosity. And even when when I told my family that I was getting back with him, like, they were excited. They're like, good for you all. Like, put in the work, make it work. They love him, and they want nothing more than for us to make this work and for us both to be happy.
Yeah. So you think it was like, no surprise to some of your family members?
Oh, no.
Like, yeah, I knew you guys were going to come back together.
They expected it. Yeah, they expected it.
Couldn't keep y'all away from each other as kids. I mean, just kind of.
I joke around because I'm like, after we divorced, he moved 3 minutes down the road. And I'm like, he couldn't even go far from me. He's right down the street.
I did it for my daughter, man.
I know.
For Rico, yeah, sure.
He did it to keep the kids in the same school.
Yeah.
It's a funny joke.
Small sacrifices, right?
Come on, Rico. Listen, from one man to another. Yeah, you did it for your daughter. I got it. But that's awesome. So now fast forward to, a year and a half post the divorce, and then you guys are, having this bonding moment. Unfortunately, it was over the death of your son, or you guys are grieving, and then you're starting to, the emotions are coming back, the feelings are coming back, and now you guys are talking about getting back together. What was that first conversation like?
It was hard. It was a hard conversation to have because, we had to reveal, it was hard conversations. We had to talk about things that had happened the last year and a half while we were separated. We made, we made a decision that we were going to be open and honest about everything. And sometimes that's hard, even though you're separated, right? You don't want to hear about other things.
Right. Yeah.
It was a lot of transparency, a lot of, okay, this is what I struggled with in the past, and this is why I struggled with it. How are we going to overcome that? I was more scared of the fact of, oh my gosh, what if we do this and it doesn't work for our daughter's sake, because she just lost her brother. There's been a lot of changes. And so introducing her to this family dynamic again for it potentially not to work was scary. But Rico made a good point. He was like, we can't have that mentality. Like, it's going to work because we're going to make it work. we're not going to fail because we're not going to let it. And so that kind of shifted my perspective on things. But it was a hard conversation, that first one.
And for me, I was in a relationship, not for very long during the accident. And so after spending the amount of time with her and those feelings that I didn't expect to resurface, I had to cut things off because the type of person I am, like, if I can't be what you need me to be in a relationship, there's no reason for me to be in a relationship, right? So I'm gonna let you go on and find somebody that is for you. It's unselfish to hold on to you when my mind is in two different places, right? So I ended up, cutting that off, and then that's when we got more intentional, and that's when we had the hard conversations. So that's how that went for me.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And Rico, from a man's perspective, like how easy was it for you to, listen, because you had a pass and she had a pass, and then, you guys are coming together and trying to build, knowing everything that happened. How easy was that for you?
It was difficult. I'm not gonna lie. And as men, as we got a little ego on us. You know what I mean? Everybody has an ego, but the one thing I've learned as a man is, in certain circumstances, you have to learn to kill the ego, right, and really see it for what it is. I did my things. I'm sure I said things to her that about us. What I did during the separation or the divorce that she didn't like to hear either. It's just we've come to a level of maturity, and especially me as a man. That you just gotta take it for what it is, and it's like us giving each other the option to say, I want to deal with you or I don't. You know what I'm saying? So just put it all out on the table and say, all right, I think we can proceed with this, or I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and bounce. So.
Got it. So back in 7th grade, Rico made the first move, but this time around, who made the first move?
I think it was both of us, really.
Yeah.
It was one of those things, like Rico and I have this thing, like there's a look. And we know the look, we both know the look.
Yeah. Rico's blushing already.
There's a look, and I think there was so what was it first? So we're in mediation for our son, and the lawyer was like, hey, I tried to pull up y'all's divorce and there's no record of it. And he was like, are you sure y'all are divorced? And I was like, yeah, like we both signed it, it's been a year ago. And he was like, I'm telling you, there's no record of it. And so we kind of like made a joke out of it. It was a really hard day. We laughed. So I was like, you're still my husband, hope you're still ready to deal with me. And, but I know for me, secretly, I was like, all right, God, like, is this your way? And so and I was kind of excited to think that we weren't divorced,
Yeah.
And I think deep down he was too. So I called down to the courthouse and they're like, I don't see anything. And I'm like, I'm still married, like, what the heck? So a couple of days later, I called back and turns out it was never electronically filed, but there was it was finalized.
Gotcha.
And I was sad, but I'm like, so there were a lot of that. And then, we went and seen the truck for the first time after the accident.
Okay.
And the truck was absolutely demolished. And there was stuff everywhere in the middle.
Was a car accident? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
In the middle console, the top of the middle console was completely ripped off, and there was just stuff everywhere in the truck. In the middle console, and a little bitty thing was my wedding ring. All 3 pieces in my wedding ring.
Wow.
And his wedding ring was still in there too. And it's like, to think that the damage to that truck, if you've seen the truck, you're like, I don't know how anyone walked away from that. But to think that those rings were still there. And not only that, but the truck had sat for 5 months exposed to the weather elements, rain, snow, whatever. And the ring was just sitting there, I don't know. There was a lot of those little, people call them God winks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people ask, why did you keep the ring? And, you being the man that's been through a divorce, in the beginning, it's kind of fresh. You have a hard time accepting it, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my way of just like, I ain't just ready to get rid of it. I just don't want to go and sell it. We had talked before that, if I was to upgrade her ring, how we would give it to our daughter. I just couldn't find myself to get rid of it. I wasn't at that point yet. You know what I'm saying?
No, I got you. I can totally relate. I'll be honest with you. I think it took me about a year or a year and a half to actually say or utter the words that I am divorced.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because for men, it's not easy to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So so I can completely understand why people would tell you, why did you still keep the ring? So I get it.
Yeah.
So now when you guys decided that you were going to give it another shot, what was the because I know Lindsay, you have friends, and I know how girls can be, and Rico, I know your boys as well. Were they welcoming the idea, or did they oppose? And did they say, well, you know what, you've been free, this is your time to to go out and do your thing?
No. Go ahead, Ben.
For me, my boys was pretty supportive.
Okay.
I have a small circle of friends. I don't surround myself with people that aren't on the same mindset that I am. So I have a very small circle of friends. And when I told them, they were all like, man, hey, whatever makes you happy, man, we're here to support you. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, same thing with my friends. None of them. There was one I told Rico, I was like, I think she'll be a little like hesitant.
Yeah.
Because they're just very big on her and her husband are very big on marriage and like you made a commitment. And so they were upset when we got divorced. And I was like, and then for us to get back together, she's gonna be like, what the heck? But no, like they were all excited and very, very supportive.
Yeah.
Which was kind of shocking that everyone was so, excited and just,
And I think it's because a lot of people were surprised at how this tragedy didn't tear us apart even worse than the divorce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how it brought us closer together. And so when we finally came out and told people, hey, we're going to try it again, it was like, oh wow, that's a blessing. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, this doesn't happen for us. So
gotcha. Yeah, that's that I can imagine how that would be. So I know usually a lot of people, they have opinions about people's relationship and so on and so forth. So since you started doing the video series, Lindsay, what's been the feedback online regarding your your announcement that you guys are trying to get back together?
for the most part, it's been positive. I mean, there have been a few negative comments on there, but I mean, that comes with it.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to have something nice to say. And what I've found too is hurt people hurt people. Like they've either been through a divorce and it was nasty, or they were, their parents didn't have the best relationship. And so it caused all this chaos in their home growing up. There's something in their past that they were triggered by seeing us get back together, and so there was some trolls on there, with some not so nice things to say, but I've learned to overlook them, especially after losing our son. I'm at a point in my life where I could care less what anyone thinks about me.
Yeah.
Your opinion doesn't affect my life, doesn't pay my bills, so I don't care. Like I didn't really care. And so I take the negativity like with a grain of salt, because it's a stranger that's never going to meet me in real life probably. And, they have an opinion about everything. So
with me, I'm not a social media guy. I just downloaded TikTok probably about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And so just to kind of connect with her and share our story and stuff like that. And so like, I've never been the type of person to care what anybody think about me. So it is what it is. Everybody has their opinion. You're entitled to that, but doesn't mean that I have to let it affect how I think and how I feel. So.
And too, I have to remind myself they're getting a snapshot into our life, into our relationship.
Yes.
They don't know the ins and the outs. They don't see what goes on when I'm not videoing. They don't see, the conversations that we have or the things that we overcome on a day-to-day basis. They don't see that. They only see what I show them. And so I have to keep that in mind too. Like they're seeing a tiny glimpse of my life and they think they know everything.
Yeah.
When the reality of it is there's so much more going on behind the scenes that you just don't see.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, there was another video that I saw of you where, you said that, God is not starting over, or you guys are not starting over, but God is starting something new with you. So I thought that was very powerful. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I mean, we're not starting over, this isn't new for us. We're just doing something different. We're trying it a different way. We realized that our way didn't work. And that God has to do a new thing, not only in us as a couple, but individually. Like he has to do a new thing in me. He has to do a new thing in Rico so that we can collectively come together as a couple and, and do what needs to be done. Like, it can't be, there has to be work on the inside. There has to be changes inside of me. There has to be changes inside of Rico. Because a lot of the stuff, the toxicity that we had, just bad habits, like, the stonewalling or, being roommates because you got offended by something so simple that didn't even matter, but you let it build up and build up and build up, and like Rico said, a lot of that's pride, a lot of it's ego, wanting to be thinking I'm right, so.
And I want to say this to, your viewers or anybody that's in a marriage that may be struggling. Like, I feel like that the devil fought us so hard in our marriage is because our testimony can help thousands of people. You know what I'm saying? I feel like our testimony and what we can overcome and what God sees for us as a couple can help thousands of people. And that's why the devil fought so hard in our marriage. And he may have won that battle, but he didn't win the war, because look where we are today. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you're speaking, it's like I can visualize this. As you're talking about the truck that was, demolished and, like into, pieces, right? So within all this debris, it's like I can see just like a little flower that is germinating, right? And that flower is being your relationship that is being rekindled. So that is a powerful, that could be a powerful story that can help, plenty of other people who are struggling in their relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful ashes, man. Beautiful ashes.
Exactly. Thank you. Perfectly said. Yeah. So, there was one thing you said, Lindsay. You said, if you are going to, do this work again, it makes more sense to do it, with someone that you already know. Right. And I think that, there's a great value to that, because it's like you already know the person, their pet peeves, what irks him, and he knows what gets on your nerves, and so on and so forth. So, and then you guys spent 20 somewhat years together. So it makes sense that you guys kind of like rededicate yourself towards one another and kind of like help each other and rediscover each other, and then, fall in love all over again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, because when I think about it, at my age, I'm 43, being back in the dating world, it's like, I'm going back to, hey, what's your favorite color?
It's different out here, man.
Yeah.
It's different out here today.
And one thing I noticed, like I didn't get in a relationship when we were divorced, but I did go on dates, and the same thing. Yeah. What I realized is I was looking for Rico in every single person. I was looking for him. Yes. And one of his best friends made the comment. She called him one night and she was like, y'all out here looking for each other and other people. Just be with each other.
He said you're looking for something that you already had.
Yeah, you're looking for something you already have. I was looking for him. He was 3 minutes down the road, but I'm out here dating, trying to find Rico, trying to find someone that will open my door for me, trying to find someone, So I think it's like one of those things. Like I was like, I'm not going to find another him. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, because no one that you meet will satisfy, because that's not who you're looking for. You're looking for him.
I'm looking for him. He's right here.
Right. I mean, I wish more people would come to that realization. Right. Listen, I get it. Relationship is hard. Marriage is hard. People get hurt, and sometimes it's hard to overcome the hurt that happened during the relationship. And I can understand it if people don't want to get back together. That's on them. But if you do, think about it or want to work on it, I think it's probably the best solution out there. Again, like I said, you already know the person. There's a saying, it's the devil. It's unfortunate we have to use that word, but sometimes, hey, it's who you know, right? So it's a lot easier for you to deal with that person. But yeah, so what is your message to people who are number one, struggling, and number two, who are thinking of the idea of reconciliation, but they are afraid of what their friends are going to say or what parents are going to say, especially if friends and parents were super involved in the separation?
So for me, it's one of my favorite songs. Fear is not my future. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've heard it before. Yeah. You can't let the fear of failure dictate your decisions on if you want to reconcile with somebody that you love, because at the end of the day, your heart knows who you love. You can't help who you love. And if you want to reconcile with that person, I'd rather leave this world knowing that I did everything I could to love this woman to my full capacity, than to leave this world saying, man, I ain't even try. Knowing that my heart, desires this woman, and that I didn't even try. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, for me, it's just, who cares what people think? It's your life. Yeah. Live it. At the end of the day, no one can make you happy. Like, do things that make you happy. If getting back with your partner makes you happy, then do it.
Right.
Like, who cares? At the end of the day, like, people's opinions are so minute on the scale of like what actually matters in life. Like, just do it, like, who cares?
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. And There was another video that I saw, Rico. It was when you were introducing your girlfriend to your daughter.
Oh yeah.
She thought that was so funny. It took her to death, man.
Yes, yeah. She was like, "That's my mommy. I've met my mommy already."
She was so confused.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, talk to me about that idea, Rico.
Well, so the thing about it is, we were like, all right, we're dating each other, we're pursuing each other, and I think we got into a point that we need to tell Anaya, because we were like sneaking and giving each other kisses when she would like go in her room or something, or holding each other, hugging each other, so she couldn't see it, and we just didn't want to confuse her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we was like, all right, so we put our heads together and like, this is how we're going to do it. So that's how we ended up carrying it out, and I thought it was real cool and a memorable moment.
Absolutely.
Well, and too, she made me promise her. She's like, Mom, when you get a boyfriend, you promise me you'll tell me. So she would ask me every so often, do you have a boyfriend yet? Do you have a boyfriend yet? Do you have a boyfriend yet? And so like, when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I was like, I have to tell her. Like I told her I would tell her, and I'm not going to break my promise. And so, that was one thing I told him too. I was like, look, we kind of dated secretly and kind of were pursuing each other and kind of, figuring out like a game plan on how we're going to make it work. And we kept it, no one knew but us.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, before we can officially date and say that we're boyfriend and girlfriend and have a title, we have to ask ourselves, are we, one, ready for our daughter to know? And two, are we ready to go public with it? Because if we're not willing to go public and say, screw everyone's opinions, then we're not ready yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so again, we had that conversation, and we both decided, yes, we're ready to tell Anaya. We're ready to tell the world, and she was excited.
She was.
So
that's awesome. And, seeing that beautiful smile on her face and seeing how happy she was, you know what, it was just beautiful. And it just reinforces that you guys are making the right decision. So that was good. Yeah. Well, any other advice that you want to, leave with the viewers?
I don't think so. Do you have anything?
No.
That's awesome. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for, allowing us to be part of this wonderful journey, this wonderful story. As I said before, I have no doubt if God is leading this journey, that you guys will be successful. And as you said, you're putting God at the center, and that's the best, that's the best place you can ever start anything. So,
for sure.
Yeah, so I'm happy to hear that. I pray that, God will continue to bless you guys, and he will enrich your territory, and then allow your love to grow even stronger than it ever was before.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So is that Anaya?
Yeah.
Hi, Naya. Yeah, it's a beautiful family. So, I pray God's blessing over you guys. So
thank you so much.
Well, I wish you all success, and keep in touch. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
It's your life. It's your story. It doesn't matter what people think. You know what? I couldn't say it any better. Lindsay and Rico, listen, they hit it right on the head with that statement, because it's their life. As Rico said, fear is not his future. Fear is not my future. Listen, I don't know what you're going through today. I hope the story that you just watched, you find it very inspirational. That I pray that it would speak to your situation, regardless of where you are in your marriage. It could be that you're in a healthy marriage. That's fine. So it shows, the power of God. It shows that when you guys truly dedicate yourself to one another and dedicate yourself to God, God can continue to reinforce your marriage, right? And if you are struggling with your marriage right now, let this shine a light and to show you that nothing is impossible, that God can pull you guys back together. God can give you a fresh start, right? Not a fresh start with somebody new, but a fresh start with your partner. So this is what the story is telling you right now. So I am so happy they trusted us enough to share their story with us, to leverage our platform to, put their story out there. So I do pray that it helps someone, that it touches someone, and that they find it very inspirational. And listen, if you're going through it, just hang in there, man. Just hang in there. Like I said, I know marriage is not easy. Living together with someone is not easy. But you know what? With God in the midst, with God in the center, it's not impossible. As I always say, if there's a way to fix the marriage, fix it, because I'm not a big supporter of divorce. I'm not a big supporter of separation. If we can find a way to work it out, work it out. All right. Divorce is not the answer. Matter of fact, it's never the answer. Now, I do understand there are certain circumstances that call for divorce. You know, I get it. I understand. But if by any means it can be saved, that's what I would recommend. And guys, as always, remember, live every day as if it is your last day, because one day it will be. Thanks for watching 2.0. I'm 2.0. I'll see you next time.